get to read, so we'll see. Henry Crawford, the author of three poetry collections, American Software, Binary Planet, and most recently Screens. That's most recent, right? In 2025. And he won the first prize in the 2019 World Food Poetry Competition, has been published quite widely, including in magazines such as Boulevard, Copper, Nickel, and Rattle. He's a two-time finalist for the Wurgle Flump Humor Poetry Contest. You know, I applied to that this year, so maybe I'll beat you out. Who knows? Who knows? And nominated for a Riesling Award by the Science Fiction Poetry Association. You going to read any science fiction poetry? Yeah. I don't know if I've heard you read science fiction poetry, but I'm not really familiar with it.
I'm going to do one.
Okay, good, good. And he has been a co-host of Cafe Muse Literary Salon Online and writes on Substack, https://everydaypoet, one word, at .substack.com. Henry, all yours.
All right.
Thank you so much, Phil. And thanks for inviting me to read my poems here. And good to see everybody. Thanks for coming out and being a fan of poetry. And I am, as Phil mentioned, I am the author of three collections of poetry. And I'm going to read from all three of them. This has been a tour that I've been on with my most recent book, Screens. And I've been on doing that tour for the last couple of months. But this time, for the first time anywhere, I'm going to read from all three of these books because they're a trilogy. They're a trilogy. I call it the American Software Trilogy. And all three of them have the constant theme of language, technology, and contemporary America. So I'm going to start with the oldest book, American Software. And I'm going to start with a love poem. There are love poems in every one of them, and they're all to my wife, but she doesn't like poetry, so she's never read them, to my knowledge, and I don't even know if she knows that they're there. And that is one of the reasons why I keep coming back to writing them. So this is The Distance. Now, it was only this morning I saw my wife's face coming up through the skin, covering her bony skull, the way flesh contains and conceals the width of what some might call personality, and others the soul, or the way we might think of a rainforest as a certain type of geography, but we might also see the trees everywhere breathing for us, like the porous hollows of her skin, the way it knows how to fold and unfold itself, so steady and yet giving something new, like an ice floe bundling and unbundling, the same way a bear might clutch and release a cub. She walked into breakfast this morning, her eyes crinkly, and I detected a certain happy thought just coming to the surface near the turn of her mouth, and I enjoyed her pleasure from the other side of the eternal distance that we have learned to share. The way a sea otter or seal will come up with a face full of water to teach us yet another kind of happiness.
All right.
Okay, and on a more serious note, this is a poem that drew a lot of attention a few years ago when they were experimenting with lethal injections in prisons. And in 2014, they were experimenting in Texas on lethal injections. And this is a man that they were executing. And they wanted to know whether or not how things were going as he was dying. And so one of them said, well, how does it feel? His answer became the name of this poem. It does kind of burn. Goodbye. He was burning, and he was trying to tell us something. He was on fire, and he was trying to be objective. It burns. He was trying to tell us that it was burning, and that's what it does. It burns. And he was trying to tell us, I'm on fire. And he was trying to lessen the burn, kind of. So he used the phrase, kind of. Well, yes, he was burning, but only kind of, like having kind of a dream or being kind of awake, like being kind of happy and feeling kind of blue, like being kind of on fire. And he was kind of saying goodbye. And he was trying to tell us something about saying goodbye. And he had this word, and it only takes one word to say goodbye. And he was trying to tell us goodbye. And he was burning, and he was kind of leaving, and he was trying to tell us something. And some of them heard him say goodbye. Jose Villegas in Texas, 2014. From the Binary Planet, which is my second in the series, American Software. This is a book that was published by the WordWorks initially in 2020. It was re-released in 2024, and I'm going to start with a poem that was referenced by Phil. This one that won the World Poetry Hunger Poetry Contest. The Fruits of Famine. On those nights, we traced the shapes of fruit until the dark became our eyes. On those nights, we left our fields unhearing the crack of broken roots, the silence of dying ground. On those nights, twilight filled the deserts of our crossing with the vermilion breath of watermelon. On those nights, the stars seeded the skies above the camp. Jackfruit guards stood still as celery stalks. And on those nights, we dreamed, like you, of strawberry days on porcelain plates. And on those nights, I made an apple out of sand and watched it blow away. Okay. The Fruits of Famine. The next one is okay. Oh, the next one very prophetic. It was a finalist for the Jake Adam York Southern Humanities Contest a few years ago, and I put it in the reading today because it reads the way I feel these days in this endarkenment that we are going through. This is Blackout. The generators failed. Street lights went dark. Afraid to go out, they stopped reading news. No flashlights. Could not work a compass. No longer kept books. Forgot how to sew. Could not tie a knot. Their trees were falling. They had no seeds. The doors were locked. No telephone calls. They stopped writing letters. Walked through debris. Could not see the stars. Were afraid of the sun. Their roads were crumbling. The windows were shut. They could not tell a joke. Preferred to stay in. Danced without partners. Did not go to stores. Wary of others, their schools were guarded. They stood by their guns. Kept children inside. They breathed difficult air. It was hard to find clocks. They didn't buy music, rarely looked out. Someone said it was raining. No one could tell. They thought it was cold. It was colder. Blackout. And all three of the books have a portrait of DC, each one of them, because that's what I do with all of these things. Now I'm going to do a portrait of, and they're all different in their way. This one is I try to imagine DC like a giant pinball table. Okay, and you know that you see that little square that you see on the old maps that we used to have maps, and they would look like that. This is DC pinball. Shot out of Fort Stevens cannon, the ball caroms up Georgia Avenue for 50 quick points off the Leisure World globe, ricocheting off the strip mall stores of Aspen Hill to spin jauntily down the Starbucks corridor of Connecticut Avenue, picking up dollars in the doorways of K Street law firms, lighting up lobbyists for cash and prizes, whirling around the tidal basin, only to be trapped in Jefferson's Dome, then loosed by a flip of the Washington Monument, knocking the ball into the reflecting pool, where the poor once stood waiting for their own bonus points, at the lap of Lincoln, who kicks the ball around the outer rings of DuPont Circle, up Mass Ave, past the Navel-Gazing Observatory, picking up gargoyle points off the walls of the Washington Cathedral, then up the Neiman Marcus Highway of Wisconsin Avenue, past the grave of Scott Fitzgerald before falling into the ancient waters of the Rock Creek, now flowing gently by a pickup b-ball game at Candy Cane City. Untouched and gaining speed as it sails past the proud shores of P Street Beach to slip through the hands of white-gloved Georgetown, unable to make the save as the ball drops into the Potomac on its way out to the Big C that knows nothing of us. DC Pinball. So now I'm going to move on to my latest book, Screens, just came out in July. And I'm going to start. Do we have any poets in this audience? Sometimes we do. We got a few of those. This is for poets. This is the automatic nervous system. You know, we all have those things. They don't. You know, it's all there. The fact that we're erudite and we can write poetry and be who we are, but all the while lurking behind us is the automatic nervous system. This is the other side of mind. And it's about poets. Even as you're trying to decide where to break this line, I'm right here, guiding this morning's coffee down the twisting tubes of your long digestive tract. Even as you're working on the title, I'm blinking your two eyes, keeping them always watered, even as you gaze into your screen with furrowed brow and scrunched up face. Even in meditation, counting breaths, here I am again, actually making you breathe, so you can indulge your front lobe fantasy of total loss of self. Even later, when you go out there reading this aloud before a room full of neocortex thinkers, wildly looking at watches, rustling in chairs, and otherwise trying to understand what's going on, there I'll be with the other silent brains, working to keep everyone at a steady 37 centigrade degrees. And now, even as you wonder how this poem will be received, and wondering if you'll get it published, and dare say dreaming of a possible pushcart, here I am, as always, ready to give your lower abdomen a little squeeze, just to let you know it's time to pee. Little poet humor there. This next one is, it comes from when my grandson was born. We were up there and he was just days old, and I was holding him, and we all took turns. My daughter, her companion, my wife, and we all took turns holding the baby and with the bottle and everything. And I fell asleep in the way that you sometimes fall asleep, you know, like where it's quick and you see like a little mini dream and then it disappears. You ever have that experience? And it was like one of those moments. And I dreamt of this cat that I had that had only died like 2 weeks ago, the dead cat. This is the dead cat dream. He slinked over to me, except now he could talk, but not in a way that requires the tongue. I told him I was happy to see him come back. And it's the same way my mother will appear sometimes, as she was, and sometimes as a strange, unfathomable shape, and at other times, only her full screen face, immutably alive as my white whiskered cat in the dream I had, nodding off for a second while holding you to my breast and watching you work the nipple while falling in and out of your own infant sleep, with dreams too formless for characters, just royal shades of color, breathing light. In time, we'll learn to dream each other, and you might come to me and I to you, the way my grandfather will sometimes come to visit. And in all these times, we will enjoy each other until one of us wakes up.
All right.
Okay, so this is the portrait of DC poem from Binary Planet. You heard the DC Pinball one. This one is called City of Glass. It's more modern. Despite the New York Avenue horn parade of Tesla and Toyotas driving semi-blind down the slant glare of September sunlight, an echo of the days of '68 still reverberates in the alleys of the squat skyline of Cashbox Towers, multiple night hotels, Smithsonian caves of geologic time, of air, of space, of Rembrandt suddenly seeing himself old under the rectangular eyes of Mark Rothko, overseeing the cars below, slowly rolling into the dark of basement garages. Fourth floor Patty, And sixth floor Tom, working a whiteboard of donors plotted against possible opportunities while shiny-shoed partners fill in the blanks of untimely timesheets. And Metro Center regulars huddle around a bespoke Edward Gibbon-style profit, measuring the decline and fall of stocks, of housing, the rise of gold, of crypto, of Midwest cattle futures, and winter polar bears slogging the last of ice along Alaska's North Slope. Night is harder to see, better reflected off the glass of after-hours saloons, of deal makers, deal closers, deal runners, and deal seekers, working under the blue moon illuminating the statue of homeless G Street Jesus, eternally wounded and infinitely asleep, while under a metro overhang, alongside her makeshift urban tent, an angry madwoman brings to a conclusion her argument against the stars. And let's see, I think I'm going to go over to, yes, this is the science fiction poem. This was nominated for a Riesling Award by the Science Fiction Poetry Society. And it's actually a haunted house poem, and it won the Rattle Poets Respond contest about 3 years ago because it was Halloween. It's a haunted house poem that also has climate change implications. As we were saying goodnight, someone noticed a television left on in one of the rooms. So a couple of guys headed upstairs, and it was reassuring to know it was under control, but noises kept coming down the hallway, and the floors began groaning with the feet of searching people, turning on lights and looking into rooms and sometimes shouting, "I've got it," which some people believed, while others stayed more skeptical, patting the walls and opening doors, like the young woman who discovered a bathtub she couldn't stop overflowing, or the lawyer who came upon a stove with lit burners and an oven leaking gas, and they twisted the knobs left and right to no effect as the air got thicker with the smell of distant smoke, even as we climbed to higher flights where we stumbled upon a floor of mousetraps so dense you couldn't breathe without setting them off. So we stood frozen together, and I bid goodnight to Jim and Martha Winkler, who were lost in thought as they considered the situation under the remorseful gaze of a wall-mounted moose. As one by one, the lights went dark, and the glint dimmed in the glass eye of a stuffed monkey as the moon escaped the only window.
All right.
Yeah, that was... And what would a poetry reading be without a poem about the heat death of the universe? So here is afterwards. It's going to come, so why not write about it? The heat death of the universe. This is afterwards. In time, there will be no houses, and with them, no garages, and with them, no four-square windows with the smell of putty and glass. They will not be there. No oily odor of gasoline on cement, and the shady place beneath the car, none of it will be. And there'll be no coming home from a late night drive with no speeding cars, no night-defying headlights hovering inches above the ground on multiple lane freeways. That will not be there. And with them will go the roadside diners, and with them there'll be no griddle cakes, no burned coffee in chipped white cups, just the black, no longer hot, holding all the secrets.
All right.
So that's the end of the universe, but it's not the end of me. I've got one more. Comes from the current AI crisis. I wrote it in the syntax of JavaScript because I used to be a software engineer. So it's in the syntax of JavaScript. And it deals with the choices we make as a society when we have these large-scale technologies, whatever they may be. We choose them, regardless of the consequences. This is things to consider when choosing AI. We could have floated to Europe on solar-powered mahogany ships, experiencing each other fondly on wooden benches, waving wishes to whales and following the gulls. Instead, we chose to go on planes, in armored tubes, breathing false air, pushing the feet, arms, and legs of crowded companions away, while all the while seeding the skies with tons of CO2. We could have rolled to work in cherry-wood wagons, human-powered, everyone greatly working together on smooth groove tracks carved into floors of green cities. Instead, we chose to go in cars, alone, temperature-controlled, music for one. Outside, a battle of inches, a heart of adrenaline, blood, pressure, the gas pedal hidden beneath our feet, exchanging history for smoke. We could have shared housing on evenings, telling stories, welcoming passersby with a gentle wave, sharing the palace of the night sky, beckoning each other to the evening. Instead, we built McMansions, entertainment installed, cameras attached, screens secured to walls, on desks and pockets, everyone to themselves in separate rooms. And of course, we could have tried love, touched our shoulders, clasped our hands, put away our toys, our gods, agreed that we are all we have. Instead, we fortify our shores, stand our ground, summon our tribes, for the storm we know is coming. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Henry. I assume you wrote that, not AI, right? I was glad in your, was that the first DC poem, that I was waiting for a ball to come up to Montgomery County, and it did. It wasn't all DC, just DC area. And I can, appreciate when you mentioned that this is a blackout poem, because it struck me. I think it probably would have without you even saying, is what's happening today globally. That's pretty bad. Now we have our second featured reader. Those of you that were scoring there, the answers will be announced after our second reader. So, Karren Lalonde Alenier. What's the right pronunciation? Alenier? Alenier. Okay. Has written 8 books of 8 poetry collections, including How We Hold On from Broadstone Books, 2021, and is the editor of 3 anthologies, including From the Belly volumes. Gertrude Stein invents a jump early on, her jazz opera. In fact, Karren was 2-3 years ago. She did a Gertrude Stein program when this was, I don't know where it was at that time.
It was a bookstore.
Was a book. What was that bookstore? Second Story Books in Rockville, or I don't remember. It's been moving around so much. Gertrude Stein invents a jump early on, her jazz opera with composer Bill Banfield, premiered June 2005 in New York by Encompass New Opera Theater. And her website is www.alenier.com. Alenier. Karren.
Okay. So I'll start with a signature poem. She was a flippy lady, a real sixer in a deck of 9s. She knew the handle from the muzzle, the click of the cock from the squeeze of the trigger. She listened, an authentic spoon tuner in a forest of forks. Her ear was better than a metal detector, sharper and juicier than a blowgun. Her mouth tasted the purple plum. In short, she had more life in her than the entire city of New York. So I'd like to start by reading a poem each from the new set of books, which is called From the Belly, Poets Respond to Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons. And so I wrote 20 poems per volume, but I invited my friends and family to come and share the Steinian woods with me, because I say, don't go into the Steinian woods alone. Take all your friends and family. You'll have more fun that way. Okay, so in the first section, which is based on Stein's first section, which she called Objects, you have a carafe that is a blind glass. This is Gertrude. And I'm just going to give you a fragment from that little poem. A kind in glass and a cousin, a spectacle and nothing strange, a single hurt color and an arrangement in a system to pointing. So here is my take on the poem of Stein's, On the Matter of Being, 3rd February, 1874. That is the date of Gertrude Stein's birth. In a window in or around Pittsburgh, she comes to stress matters. Stress matters in the slide between inside and out. Is she dreaming or being dreamt? I dream, you dream, she dreams, they dream, dreamed, dreamt. The T versus the ED irregular, past tense, or living verb. The British channel between learn and spill. Still, what matters, the interior, smaller or larger than the cell. Okay. So book 2 is food. And I'm going to read one poem from Food. And I picked out one that I thought was scary, and it's based on Stein's Sugar poem. And the fragment that I give you from the Sugar poem, which is Stein, a puzzle, a monster puzzle, a heavy choking, a neglected Tuesday. My poem, Containing the Critics. Muzzle the monster, so build shackles smooth as ribbons, stronger than iron from cat's feet, mountain roots, bear tendons, woman's beard, fish breath, bird spit. Tuesday's namesake lost his sword hand. The wolf bit it off. The pledge broken. No game such violent luck, a puzzle, this monster to keep him from swallowing the master of ecstasy, sovereignty, poetry, wisdom, magic, war, the dead. Twilight of the gods. Wolf choked him, down sun with his shoe, pried open the jaw, tore the beast forever apart. Yeah, the critics, containing the critics. Sometimes we don't like what they have to say. Okay, and from the last book of this series, which is Rooms, I'm going to read a poem that has interspersed with the lines song lyrics. It was Gertrude's favorite song, which is from the Trail of the Lonesome Pine. Now, in Rooms, she didn't have sub-poems like she did in the first 2 sections of Tender Buttons. So it's just one stream of stanzas. So from stanza 3, I take this fragment. So the tune which is there has a little piece to play. Sound is everything with Gertrude. And this poem is called Union. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. The singing is extra, I'm sorry. I was born in Pittsburgh, on the trail of the Lonesome Pine. My daddy, a Lincoln Republican. In the pale moonshine, our hearts entwine, where she carved her name and I carved mine. Tender and true, it was sacred, a sacred fact. Oh, June, like the mountains, I'm blue. Oh, Alice, my babies will be born with you. And by that, I mean that Gertrude made a deal with Alice that her books would be born with Alice. So Alice did all the typing and the editing and all the heavy lifting. Okay. So that's a little tour, very fast, through From the Belly. Poets respond to Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons. And now I want to read from my Broadstone books. I want to thank Henry for organizing this reading today because he's the one who got this reading from Phil. And I thank you, Phil, for giving me the opportunity to read here. I really appreciate it. I love Henry's work. I think it's really wonderful, magnificent. Okay, so I want to read the Bell Sonnet. And the Bell Sonnet is what is known as an American sonnet. And it was Terence Hayes who created this form. So a sonnet typically has 14 lines, but an American sonnet, according to Terence Hayes, has 14 parts. And so they're very short. Here we go, the Bell Sonnet. When the bell sounds, the vibration heals. 2. The man I called father hit a cowbell for comic relief and then blew smoke rings. 3. In our 20s, my friend, whose name is pronounced Bell, but is spelled Beall, said we must say boldly, we are poets. 4. Don't ask, John Donne preached, for whom the bell tolls. Appropriating these words, Hemingway wrote, the death of even one Spaniard mattered to everyone. 5. The singing bowl lowers the heart rate and blood pressure. 6. Could it be, Dad asked, packing the bowl of his pipe, that years of sitting on my drummer's stool caused the tumor in my hip? 7. My friend named Bell earned his PhD by looking at the stars, especially the imploded ones. He opined, sometimes you eat the bar, and sometimes the bar eats you. 8. At the southern border, Ollie Ollie Oxenfree is not a dinner bell ringing. 9. In the great bell chant, Thich Nhat Hanh's bell penetrates the cosmos to stop suffering and open the Dharma door to the beautiful child in the heart of a lotus. 10. I can still feel the roughness of my father's feet as I soothed them with smooth ointment. He was 17 on a WW2 merchant marine ship when he first lit up, 57 when the lung cancer war took him down. 11. In the military, Dr. Bell learned to make bombs. Now he sells his students on poetry. 12. In 2045, census projects the United States will become minority white at 49.8%, with the Hispanic population at the next highest percent of 24.6. 13. This is the bellwether feared by angry white men who worry that women who are free to choose might not have been their mothers. 14. The first time the Liberty Bell rang, these words were spoken. We hold these truths to be self-evident. So that is the Bell Sonnet. Now, This is a poem with a form that I created myself, and there are certain repetitions. It's a 5-line stanza, and it's a poem where a child speaks. And the title is Daddy and I Watch the McCarthy Hearing. Daddy sat in the dark, TV flickering gray. Daddy sat in the dark, year 1954. Sat in the dark many days. TV flickering gray. Daddy said, go to the mat. TV flickering gray. I couldn't see the floor. No mat, just boring chat. Dad said, go to the mat. All I saw, men in suits. Dad said, go to the mat. Democracy at war. Daddy heard men in boots. All I saw, men in suits. Communism is what? All I saw, men in suits. A congressman's uproar. Dad whispered to Mom, smut. Communism is what? Red Army spreading fear. Communism is what? Republicans who swore to go back McCarthy smears. Red Army spreading fear. Don't our soldiers wear brown? Red Army spreading fear. U.S. Army trapdoor lets in communist clowns. Don't our soldiers wear brown? He shouts, point of order. Don't our soldiers wear brown? Hammers the table sore. Dad sighs about disorder. He shouts, point of order. Dad, pixies, fairies, where? He shouts, point of order. Dad says, it's just folklore. Dad says, bigotry there. Dad, pixies, fairies, where? In land of liberty. Dad, pixies, fairies, where? Land of justice, what's more? Where's our democracy? In land of liberty, older I heard the pain. In land of liberty, we were Jews, underscore. That blacklist was profane. Older I heard the pain. Daddy sat in the dark. Older I felt the pain. Spring, 1954, an ominous landmark. Okay. I think I am going to go to this poem. Okay. So I spent a lot of time in Jamaica with my late husband. He loved the place, and I learned to love it too. And here are 13 reasons for crossing. It's from my book, How We Hold On, from Broadstone Books. And here's the bridge that I'm talking about that we crossed, and it had no handrails on it. Very, very scary. And this poem, you'll recognize that it's a takeoff on Wallace Stevens' 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. Okay. 13 reasons for crossing an unrailed footbridge long as a cricket field, cut in half, crosses a stunning Negril cove, 25-foot drop to a choppy sea, 5 fathoms deep. 1. Captain Bligh snaps his whip at my back, says, walk the plank. 2. I smoke ganja with Jabba Rasta man selling aki patties outside the gate. If I can eat vegetable brains and it doesn't kill me. Up in Red Ground, I meet dread and cornrow hairdresser, but don't buy her services. She sicks Nicodemus on my unborn again ass. I bring matzahs for Passover, offering some to the Jews with tattoos. Let's celebrate Moses for parting the Red Sea. These party-hardy hipsters sporting stars of David say, we prefer Easter bun. So the 10 plagues, including rats, besiege everyone. 5. The bright-headed, stubby-beaked, short-tailed blackbird male of the Jamaican Bacard, otherwise known as Judy, taunts me with his syncopated song, Wiki-tiki-tee-tee. 6. 6 children, 6 years old, march one after the other to the middle of the bridge and plop, 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 plop. They jump gleefully into the sea. 7. Hands with fat fingers reach for my neck. I think it's the tax collector, Nicodemus, but Moody, the cook, says, bring that cassava root here. I'm going to bake bammies. 8. The ghost of Arawak Indians, makers of the first Bammy flatbreads, menace me, screaming, I am one of their Spanish executioners. Hey, I say, backing up over the bridge and holding up my matzah. Those Spaniards with their Inquisition got thousands of my people too. 9. Fletcher Christian points to a breadfruit tree, says Captain Bligh deprived us of water to bring that protein-filled fruit to Jamaican slaves who refused to eat it open wide. 10. Swilling rum and coke, I boast to the toothy bartender at Rick's Cafe, yeah, man, if Captain Bligh could not only survive the mutiny on the Bounty, but go back to Tahiti for more breadfruit trees, completing delivery to Jamaica, I could. 11. In a cloud of smoke, Jabba slams down his dominoes, says Blaida sapida aki, the national fruit of Jamaica, wasn't named after Captain Bligh for nothing. Eat it when it's not perfectly ripe and you'll vomit to death. I'd cross that bridge just to know when Jabba got such brains. 12. Sean Connery as James Bond sings Under the Mango Tree with Ursula Andress in Dr. No. That honey and me soon make Bulu Loop. 12 kitties, plop, 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 onto the bridge and into the sea. 13. Ani, Black Sparrow, Kling Kling, Jammy Crow, John Crow, Rickety, Shiny, Cowbird, Wild Pine Sergeant. So many birds of black color in Jamaica. I study them to fly across that bridge to my honey on the other side. Liberate the minds of men, Marcus Garvey said, and ultimately you will liberate the body. Okay. And then I want to conclude with this poem that gives the title "How We Hold On." Okay, and here it goes. My mother kept a steamer trunk with classic clothes immune to fad. My husband owned a cedar chest packed with bits, rein, and riding whip. I am neither fashionista nor ardent horse enthusiast. In my chest, an aging heart brims with blood, both beautiful and swift. Thank you.
Thanks, Karren. I was thinking about your McCarthy poem, how those hearings are probably a lot of opportunity to write poetry, but that overlay of the kids' perspective versus the adults really, really set the tone very well. And I'm curious about Gertrude Stein. Something must have attracted you to her poetry, and was this from day one, or you just got accustomed to it, or what?
I read the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, and I thought, every writer needs an Alice B. Toklas, to manage living. And so that's where I started. That was my entree into Gertrude Stein. And that started way back in the 70s.
Okay, what do you know? Okay, and the other thing that I thought that closing the sonnet, the bell sonnet, the last one, getting the Liberty Bell in, that was just perfect closing there. Okay, so thanks to you both, Henry and Karren. Okay, so number one, Rebecca, your last name? Fanning. Okay. And I know you're on the mailing list now because he has to be.
Thank you for that welcome. It never ceases to amaze me how people will drop the most vulnerable revelations into a mundane conversation. And since listening is a key part of my spiritual and life practice, I always like to loop back and let them know I heard that. And I'm reminded of the statement in that movie, A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. This is my way of saying I can handle the truth. I heard you. Almost under your breath, I perceived an almost imperceptible understatement. I've been through a few things. Such a simple statement that called no attention to itself, said in an almost whisper that clanged in the bell chamber of my heart, cracking open the chamber door to my full attention, seeping in like a tributary, feeding into an undiscovered high-mountained freshwater lake that waters you, bringing to life the dormant feelings, the forgotten, never to be forgotten moments, and memories in body and soul that will not be ignored. I want to hear it, all of it. I want to know it. Understanding full well that I will never know it, never grasp it, but I can hold it. I am a willing witness, sturdy and welcoming. I don't need protection from you or your life, your history or your feelings. I don't need to protect myself or you from you. I can expand to contain it. I am spacious for all of it, for all of you. With me, there is no need to restrain it or the vivid, full living color feelings of the inexpressible. I am unafraid of anguish. From silence to syllables to half sentences, to half truths until they can be told true, growing into howls that pierce the veils of generations. Tell me more, feel more, bloom and bleed into it. Repeat yourself and try again to feel it more, to find another way to say it and amend it. I am here to hear you. As many iterations as it takes for you to open into the exploration of the depth and dimensions from horizon to beyond horizon. I don't want you to dilute your truth. I don't want to make you feel better or differently about it. Bring in the ancient knowing of the generations. Bring it all, the burdens that you carry. Let them say and sing and grieve their peace. Let them feel and channel through you what they survived, how they survived, the internalized shame as well as the tender triumphs, unacknowledged. Let them live and breathe deeply. It is all yours alone, and you are alone with it, with your unique experience and understanding of it. But may I offer my reverent and protective presence, holding open doors to what has been unfelt and unexpressed. You may choose to cross the threshold or not, but my doors are open. They are only doors, not demands. You can take half steps, you can retreat. You can always come back or not. You can turn your back or not. It is only a threshold, not a trap door. You contain multitudes, and so do I. I have space in the chambers of my heart for yours, too.
I got it. Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, we need more people that can listen and hear more, most importantly. Okay, what else was I going to say? I was going to say, oh yeah, there are books also. We have books for sale on the back table. So when we conclude, please look those over and perhaps purchase some. Okay, number 2, David Reed.
Three of the characters in this poem have already appeared. Thank you. Three of the characters in this poem have already appeared this afternoon as in Phil's literary quiz, and one of them even showed up in one of Henry's poems. So here they are again. F. Scott Fitzgerald be damned, I want a second act. I slept through a lot of the first, or watched TV, same thing. I look to the beats for how-to. I know that sounds crazy. Their great works are stories of their 20s published in their 30s. But that's the point. What does one do with the rest of one's life? Kerouac is the how not to. He was a diligent young writer, keeping careful notes on his adventures and returning to his mother's house to scroll them into novels. But they were all about him, young, handsome, unencumbered, and drunk. When he wasn't those things anymore, except drunk, he had nothing more to say. He died at 47 in his mother's house of liver damage. Legend has it he was watching The Galloping Gourmet. So no second act, just a sad coda. Is N.C. the secret hero of this poem? He found a second act driving the prankster's bus. Maybe he was happy, or at least distracted, until he reached his destiny. Will any of us do better? But Ginsberg is the teachable case. He made new friends and kept the old, like Girl Scouts sang. When hippies replaced beatniks, he put on love beads and ran to the front of their parade. In-your-face punk rockers puzzled the 50-something Buddhist, but he decided they were just a new wave of intelligent, vigorous kids, and he joined in. And he kept his old friends, even Corso and Burroughs, difficult people riding his coattails. Near the end, he restructured his real estate portfolio so his lifelong beloved would have their old apartment. A beat poet with a real estate portfolio? That's the second lesson. Ginsberg was always hustling. First act, unpublished wannabe. He was self-appointed protege to Carlos Williams, self-appointed editor and agent for Burroughs. Second act, author of a banned book. He rode that calling card to Paris salons. Decades later, acts later, he grumbled he'd obliged himself to shine rock and roll star on Midwest college town stages. Maybe that wasn't the best act, but he moved to the next. Thank you.
Nice entourage of poets in the second act. Okay, Don Illich. Hey, Don, are you teaching it? I saw your name in the Writer Center. You doing a course?
Yeah,
Okay, you can tell people about it if you want.
well, I shouldn't go back behind there. I am teaching in class, but it's already started, but I may teach one again in the fall of this year. Probably won't teach one during the summer. This poem is called At a Holiday Inn in Tampa. I know about my hotel room. It's haunted by Napoleon's ghost. His troops raid the ice machine. They arrest people in the lobby for speaking ill of the emperor. He is a short ghost, though, but brave. Unlike many spirits, he shows himself sitting on the other bed, gesturing at me to change the channel from ESPN. He lets me try on his hat. It materializes on top of my head. With it on, I believe I can beat Russians, stab into the heart of their country, but of course the land war failed. When Napoleon leaves inside the walls, I wonder about all the times I could have taken power. The soccer game where I almost scored a goal. The A+ exam that showed my aptitude for everything. Promotion after promotion I let drift away like hot air balloons sliding towards stars. I wasn't meant to wear a funny hat, give orders people followed completely. My hotel room has a bathtub and a sink, a place to soak and dream, water to wash my unimpressive face. True story. This one is called Baby Talk. At first, I could understand only a stray word, such as milk or food. But the more I stayed around my stepson's son, the more language I could translate. Truck led to reasoning, to existence. I could only determine Leo was giving a treatise on Wittgenstein's philosophical investigations. The lecture about language games was impenetrable. I told Leo's dad what I heard, but he asked if I had a fever, if I needed more sleep. So I was the only one who could understand babies. The next day I heard Leo reciting lines from Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner and was engrossed in his words. When his father stood behind me, "Goo goo, gaga, breakfast, gaga," he said. Did I hear right? Then my stepson's wife coasted into the room. Gaga, goo goo, baba. When I spoke in turn, they looked at me as if I was raising a bed of flowers, singing badly on stage before a crowd. What were they hearing? Why was I hearing what I was hearing? We went to the hospital. I stood before experts and babbled my verbs. Goo goo gaga, goo goo dada, mama mama, goo 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 gaga gaga. They said things I could hear from a toddler. I was nearly alone in the world. Only babies could talk to me. I worked at a nursery. I heard them discussing the light from stars.
Thanks. Great baby talk. Bonnie Naradzi.
So thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to read one poem from my book, and it's called Lines, and it's a pantoum. This has been done before, standing in line for a long time. Think of Soviet women who queued for hours for bread. And I have learned about the lines of the Great Depression. Men lined up for mind-numbing jobs at assembly lines. Think of Soviet women who stood for hours for bread, or Akhmatova outside the prison waiting for news of her son. Here, men lined up for mind-numbing jobs at assembly lines. These days, some have it easy. Food deliveries, yoga online. Akhmatova, outside the prison, waited with women for news and the chance to send a loaf of bread or a note inside. These days, some have it easy. Food deliveries, yoga online. Still, Camus said, the plague is within us, here to stay. I have learned about the lines of the Great Depression, where hope envisions a loaf of bread, a note from inside. Camus wrote that the plague is within us, here to stay, as it has always done, waiting in line for a long time.
Thank you. Thanks, Bonnie. That's very recent, that book, right?
Yeah, it came out last year.
That's recent. Do you know Phil Thomas? Because he's an expert with pantoums. Have you ever spoken to him?
You?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I don't know really the form, but he's really into it. So talk to him afterwards
Okay.
if you want
I
to.
had a recent pantoum published in Newverse News.
Oh, nice.
And it's a blog.
Okay, great. Where are we? Miles Battle.
Good afternoon. This is from my book called The Alternative Soul Food Poems. Last time I checked on Amazon, it's on sale for $200, but I have copies here for $14.99. I wrote this for my late grandmother. Her name was Maddie Battle. Grandma. A grandmother is a woman strong, like oak tree care and love. A grandmother should be a woman saved and religious, like joy and life service to a grandfather. Grandmother, a woman who hates the love of money and so gives hers away. A grandmother should sing to God like Mahalia applauded by Robeson. A real grandmother bakes pies, delivering temporary tastes of sweet gold. A grandmother should make mistakes and still be right, hide hurt and still shed light. She should laugh like thunder stealing the show from lightning, and so Grandma did. Towers and regimes fall, and so do finished bodies of faithful servanthood, like rain and tears, as heads hung low from acknowledging sin, like drops of blood from a Jesus believed in, but confident in death destroyed like the Savior achieved then. So Grandma rises, high to heaven like a promise that her father said she would. And this is all good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miles. No doubt how you felt about Grandma. And maybe she hears you. Quasar, and let us know why you always want to go last. You always want, wherever I run into him at a reading, he wants to be last. He puts his name down at the bottom.
You're not reading pantoum?
Nope, I'm not reading. Okay, hi folks. I'm not going to stop any wars. I'm very disturbed about the present war. Of course, there's other wars with Afghanistan and Pakistan and Ukraine and Russia. I'm practically an Irani at this point because I'm so involved with the community and the language. I translated Sohrab Seperi's book, The Expanse of Green. It's published by UNESCO a lifetime ago, but I'm going to read. First, I'm going to read a fragment of a poem which I just translated from Persian that I heard this week by Feridun Mushiri. The devil Ahriman passed us. Each step he took bloomed horror, panic, and terror. His sword dancing around us, dripping blood. Now, Seperi tried to, in this poem, tried to integrate modernity and war with nature. He's basically a nature poet. And this is an exuberant poem. I'm going to read, maybe say the first 5-6 lines in Persian, which a long time ago I had memorized. Sada kun mara, sataye do khub ast, sadaye do sabzine an giyah ajibi ist ke dar intihay samimiyat husn miruyad. To the garden of fellow travelers. Call me. Your voice is fine indeed. Your voice is the chlorophyll of that strange plant which grows at the sad terminus of intimacy. In the dimensions of this silent era and savoring a song and understanding a line about a lane, I am more alone. Come so I can tell you how huge is my solitude. But my solitude didn't anticipate your body's surprise night raid, and this is a property of love. There's nobody. Come on, let's steal life then. Between our two visions, we can divide and share it. Come, let's attempt together to make some sense of a stone's state. Come on, let's see things sooner. Look how the fountain's hands on the pool clock's disc transmute time to roundness. Come melt like a word in the line of my silence. Come dissolve the lustrous crime of love in my palm. Warm me up. Once, even in the Kashan Desert, it got cloudy and started raining hard, and I got cold. Then behind a rock, a hearth of anemones warmed me. In these dark streets, I fear what the stab of doubt and striking of a match might bring. I fear the cement surface of the century. Come, so I won't have to fear cities whose black earth is a pasture thick with brick. Open me like a door to the drop of a pear falling free. In this time of flying steel, put me to sleep under a branch far from the night metallic scraping. If the discoverer of the morning's ore comes, call me, and I shall to your fingers touch. Wake in a lilac flowered dawn, and then tell me about the bombs that fell whilst I slept. Tell me how cheeks became wet whilst I slept. Tell me how many ducks took wing, breaking the surface of the sea aloft. Amidst that conflict in which their armored car cut across the child's vision, to what sense of comfort the canary tied the yellow thread of its song? Tell me what innocent goods from afar arrived in port. What knowledge of positive music did the whiff of gunpowder report? The unknown flavor bred on the palate of prophecy, what import, what sense exuded hence? And then I, at spring's first blush, with faith like radiant tropic warmth, I shall sit you down plush in a garden green and lush.
All right.
Thank you. Sohrab Sepehi, died in 1980.
Too much flying steel these days, right, Quasar? Yep. Okay, anyone else? I have nobody else on the list. Anyone else like to read? Okay, if not, I want to thank everybody, especially Henry and Karren, and the open mic readers, and everyone else for attending. And check out the books. Talk amongst yourselves or whatever. They're not going to throw us out. And take care. Hope to see some of you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.